Okay, it's 12 o'clock and all our panelists are here. So it's time to officially kickstart this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining in on a Saturday afternoon on a topic that's very relevant, that's very important. Batch of 2020, where are the jobs? There are going to be thousands of graduates in various streams, in fact, lakhs from various colleges in India who will pass out this year. But considering the COVID-19 situation, considering the fact that, India was already undergoing a period of slow growth, where are the jobs going to come from? So these are some of the issues we're going to address. On the panel, we have Archit Seth, who's passed out from IMA in March. We have Utkarsh Agrawal, who will be graduating from IIT Delhi in July, August, whenever the institution reopens. We also have two veterans from the HR and recruitment space, Rituparna Chakrabarti from Team Lease, as well as Anshuman Das from CareerNet. So they'll be taking your queries live, whether it's on jobs, whether it's on careers, on whatever it is. So keep those questions coming in the Q&A window. We will try and take as many questions as possible. I want to start with you, Archit. How has it been this year? Usually, IIMs make the headlines for eye-popping offers on campus, record salaries. How has it been this year?
I guess the year was good. I mean, for all the IMs, it was really good in terms of placements. And all of this luckily happened in February, which was the pre-COVID-19, at least from the perspective of the world. So I guess all the IMs had an amazing placement season, and most of the graduates are very, very happy with the kind of opportunities that they got. So yeah, it was amazing for all the campuses. And I think a lot of my batchmates have already started the jobs. All of them are perhaps in a separate Zoom meeting, and with their own respective colleagues right now. So a lot of them have already started working. A lot of them will start working soon. So from that perspective, it has been great for at least the IMs.
Right. Utkarsh, if I can come to you, you will be graduating sometime in July, August. There has been news about companies going back on offers this time. There has been news about Gartner going back, taking back their offers. Schlumberger is a very popular recruiter at IITs across the country. They are a day zero kind of company, highly sought after for their salary package. They've also said that they are not going to come to campus this time. So how is the mood at IIT this time around? What are students saying in terms of what their plans are? Are more of them going to go for higher education? Are there delays perhaps in joining dates by these companies?
Right. So I think a lot of delays are expected. The mood is generally people are quite anxious in general. So a small number of people actually have confirmed offers where companies have committed that they'll actually they'll not rescind the jobs basically. But we had a great placement season, and since March or so, especially after Gartner withdrew its offers, people have been a little anxious and have been waiting for updates. And especially since the semester would be delayed a little, people are expecting significant delays in their joining dates as well.
Right. Welcome to everyone who's logging in and sending messages on the chat window. I hope you can hear and see us. We've just been talking to Utkarsh and Archit, who are passing out this year from IIT and IIM respectively. But it's time to bring in people, veterans from the recruitment industry. Ritu, obviously a very tough year for recruiters because companies are seeing so much of uncertainty. For freshers passing out this year, what is the trend that you can share in terms of the sectors that are hiring, the opportunities that you still see in these tough times?
I think I completely agree with Archit. I think most campuses saw really good placements this time. And if I were to look at a scenario from a pre-COVID kind of era or pre-COVID kind of a situation, one of the things that I've been extremely optimistic about and also helped us understand the mood and sentiments of organization has been that campus, whether it's the technical campuses or the management campuses, and of course, when I talk about better schools and better institutes, campus has been rather good. And whenever I see a trend like that, it tells me that organizations and corporates are optimistic about the future, and which means that if COVID would not have happened, we would have seen that optimism translate into people's businesses as well. And then here comes COVID. And yes, it's most of the decisions around campuses happened by Jan Feb. I guess it starts from November, finishes off by Jan and Feb. And the reports that I have received till Feb, I think it was quite encouraging. And then, of course, COVID happens, which means that the plans of the organizations that have gone ahead and made these offers, if there would not have been COVID, would have been quite ambitious, quite robust. I would like to assume, yes, things will change now. A lot of things will change for different sectors and industries. Things that people never factored in, planned for, predicted will happen across sectors. The outcome of that would be some of the placements offers that have been already doled out will get deferred. And some may actually also get revoked. But I think in general, organizations do realize the importance of bringing in the right kind of talent. I do believe that, of course, we all know essential services, all companies who are in essential services have been working round the clock, and those businesses will continue to operate. I feel that FMCG would be gradually and slowly, especially around staples, around processed foods, would be bouncing back. I already see signs where manufacturing has kick-started and are going to gradually get back to work, and productions would resume. Of course, there will be challenges of not having adequate manpower because of the many of the migrant labor that they were dependent on have actually left their base the locations that these units were operating. So those are challenges which are likely to happen. But yes, I do see even technology. I mean, I know a lot of people are worried about technology because of certain news of rationalizations, and they have said they're not going to hire. But I do believe that IT is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries in a post-COVID scenario. I mean, if I start making the list of opportunities that are emerging in IT thanks to COVID, its list is rather long, and it would need talent. I mean, if the world is expected to become automated, touchless, if you're looking at enhancing cybersecurity, like, we're doing these kind of webinars, and hence cybersecurity comes to the fore. You will see a lot of work on drones. You'll see a lot of works on RPAs. I think there is a huge opportunity likely to emerge even in technology. Yes, some sectors will take a huge beating, and for the longest time, maybe the impact will last 12 months, 18 months. But I guess one just have to accept it and move on, honestly. You really can't do much about it at this point of time, and make qualified steps. I mean, there's much that I think the students can do during this time. Worst case scenario, my belief is that we'll all have to treat 2020 as a gap year. Some of us can financially probably manage it. I don't think anybody can happily accept it, but some can't. But there are ways by which we can mitigate that, and we can counter that as well, in my opinion.
Right. Thank you for those thoughts, Ritu, on, the sectors that will still be in demand. You spoke about how IT might step up hiring, but of course, many of them might eventually end up working from home. If you look at what TCS has been saying and HCL has been saying, so that's going to be a huge shift. But coming to you, Anshuman, I was just looking at some numbers from the MHRD data. So if you look at 2018-19, the number of students in engineering, tech, and MCA in India is 1.6 million. That's 16 lakh. There are nearly 4,000 institutions in these streams. And if you look at UG and PG graduates from arts and science colleges, that's another 30 lakh. So, the roadmap for an IIT or an IIM will be better because of the pedigree that these institutions bring. But a lot of people have been asking, in fact, this came up on the chat window as well. Someone asked me on Twitter as well, what is going to happen to those studying in tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, not the creamy layer of colleges in the country? What's going to happen to students there? What should they be preparing for?
Thank you, Chandra. So I think, what we need to look is the things in short run, medium run, and long run. So I think, and when we always talk about things in India, we always say that let's talk things at 30,000 feet, at 10,000 feet, and then at 100 feet. It means that it is again long term, medium term, and short term. So in short term, definitely there is going to be a problem. And as Rituparna also said that for a lot of us in year 2020, when we call as short term, there is going to be some disfavor. And it is not that this is new as a industry for us. If you go and trace back in year 2000 when the whole dot-com burst happened, you go back and look in 2008 and 9 what happened. I know when I was passing out in 98, just out of campus, and then just started this company in 99. And we know how frantic calls I got from my juniors from IT Delhi. And so many of them saying what is going to happen. But today when you go back and look, where are they placed today? They are doing reasonably well, and not from IIT, but from all the colleges. So I think medium to long term, it will adjust. There are certain problems which we have to see and face in the short term scenario. But with every of these downturn, I think what is coming out is a big ray of hope in terms of what new industries are going to come out. When the year 2000 dot-com burst happened, we had a complete wave of offshoring which came in India. And you could see those large multinationals coming out of India. You could see those large Infosys, Wipros, TCS scaling up in India kind of a thing. And there's a whole new set of opportunity which opened up and jobs got created. When the whole 2008 and 9 dot-com burst happened, there was a whole wave of private equity wave which came in India. And then came the whole digital platform economy which came in India, and a huge set of, in the last 10 years we see, I think we have gone through a massive disruption as far as the digital economy growing and creating jobs on back of whatever we were doing from an offshoring point of view. I'm sure that this whole 2020 is presenting those challenges. In short run, there is going to be a issue, but I do believe that there is going to be far more bigger opportunities which are going to open up. For example, when we talk about whole touchless world kind of a thing, I do believe that things like IoT, robotics, drone technology, many of them will start coming in, which also means the fact that a lot of this talent will have to kind of get prepared for those kind of a things. Some of them may not have been trained or equipped or adequately skill developed to handle that. And probably it may be a very good time for some of them will obviously be able to get employed and a good chunk may not get employed in short run. But it may be a very good time for a lot of them to invest in those areas which are going to come moving forward. And I'm quite sure that India as a country is hungry for consumption. I think we have a great supply which is there. So I'm quite sure that the overall demand supply gap will adjust. It will take some time because we are a fairly large heterogeneous economy. We are a very large heterogeneous society. And the same thing I think will get adopted at various stratas in the society. So clearly, I think people need to take lessons from what has happened earlier and how the people cope up with and how people kind of retrain themselves for the new, better world which is going to come tomorrow. So I think that's where I see that the shift is going to be. And definitely, if somebody is worried about what is going to happen in next 3 months, that's definitely a worry which is there. And probably, I would say that the next 6 to 12 months will be more about our survival and ensuring that we hone our skills, we get ready. And whenever these opportunities open up, I think we need to just be ready for it and go for it. So that's how I think things will get addressed.
Right. We are getting a lot of questions on the Q&A window. To everyone who's joining in, welcome to the webinar. We've just had opening remarks from our panelists. We have graduates of IIT, IIM, as well as 2 veterans from the recruitment industry, team leads, as well as CareerNet. I want to come to you, Archit. I got one question on the chat window, but that's asking about startups this year, because, in the last few years, a lot of people felt that startups are very hot on campuses. They've been hiring aggressively, not just from IITs, but also from IIMs. What's the scene like this year? In terms of the recruiters that you've seen at IIMs, is it the consultancies? Is it the startups? What's the trend been like?
Hey, when you talk from a management college perspective, usually the startups which come to IIMs, are the ones which are more established ones. So you don't, because they are the one who actually need experienced MBAs as well. You don't see, very 1-year-old startup or 2-year-old startup hiring from IIM so easily. And the way the entire placement process is structured, it's kind of not in the well interest as well. So, the kind of startups which have been hiring, these are, quite well established. And when they do hire people, they hire from a very long-term perspective. And even though the ones which have already hired from our campus, we are very hopeful, the students will end up joining and end up doing good work for them. So, and to be really honest, these startups are not the kind of companies which are very, very much in demand, both side, demand, supply, and management institutes as such. The well-established firms are the one who are actually looking for MBAs. You'll see a lot of MBAs joining startups at a later stage, getting some experience and then getting in. So from that perspective, I don't see a lot of disruption, things getting disrupted because of the startup scene right now, in my batch at least. But we were expecting a lot of startups to come in a few years to come. That might be delayed, for example, by a year right now. But you will see startups hiring very soon from top MBA colleges again, perhaps just after a year.
Right. Utkarsh, one question your way. One of the questions that we got in the chat window is, will more people go for higher studies? Will more people look at PhD now? Because it might be a good time to study. Recruitments and job offers are drying up. What are you seeing in IIT among your batchmates, among your juniors? Are more people perhaps changing their plans with respect to higher education? What trends can you share with us on that front?
So I think higher education does make a lot of sense when the economy of your country is suffering, so that you can go outside, you can get a degree, and maybe 2 years later you'll get a good job. But in this scenario especially, even higher education is facing a lot of trouble. So a lot of people who are going to go and pursue their master's degrees or PhDs abroad are currently not sure of what's going to happen. So they may in fact see delays over there as well. And that's why it's perhaps not, it's not the best option in these times to actually try to pursue higher education.
Right. Ritu, we're getting a lot of questions on the Q&A window. I want to throw two of them your way. One is, what are the expectations of recruiters and how should graduates prepare themselves for these expectations? Any tips and tricks that you can pass on how graduates can meet these expectations of recruiters in an era of COVID? Secondly, what about the FMCG sector? Are they, hiring? What are the prospects there? If you can share your thoughts on these two questions that came up from people who've logged into this webinar.
Sure. I think before I address those specific questions, it's important to, I'm taking the liberty of deviating a bit so that helps everyone understand the context and how to prepare for the 2020. I think everything that we are doing to murder the virus is murdering the economy, and that might be the right sequence, but it's definitely not going to be easy. But I do sense that there is an opportunity in this whole situation for all of us, I feel. But I think the approach at this point has to change, because with due regards, while we have the IMs and the IITs, I think the kids who are passing out from these institutes obviously have a slight edge. We know that, right? But then there are many other youth which are coming out from different colleges, different institutes, who are looking for a job. And my message to all of them would be that this is a time when you should not discriminate between jobs. I think a job is better than no job as well, at all. Survival is growth today. So if you're looking at building your professional career, first we'll have to learn how to survive this phase. And that itself will teach us a lot about how to handle the future. It's important for all of us to stay frugal. We have to be focused on growth industries. I think now is not the time for us to get disillusioned by brands. I think right now we just have to be very clinical about choosing the right industries and growth industries, again, the ones who are likely to get a move ahead. It's an opportunity also for us to solve wicked problems. And I think latching out to any opportunity, irrespective of the compensation it promises. You can actually get associated with organizations, picking up projects for them, which are short-term in nature, which will help you learn a lot, because whatever you're going to learn from organizations today have not been taught in any of your B schools or in your colleges, institutes that you're coming to, because there is no curriculum for it. So if you're able to get into it full-fledged right now, I think we all stand to gain. Fungibility and flexibility. Please focus on these two things. You have to ask yourself, how fungible are my skills? Because just like Anshuman rightly said, the skills that you were preparing for, or the jobs that you're preparing for, are going to go away, possibly, or will not come back for the longest time. Hence, asking ourselves the question that what are the other roles that I can make myself available in? So I think so that you can take advantage of those opportunities. And flexibility, because the traditional mindset of how jobs and livelihoods were have to be questioned. I mean, we all want a permanent job, but we are looking at a future, nothing will be permanent. Everything will be variabilized, everything will become transactional in nature. You will see concentric circles appearing in employment world. I mean, people would be wanting more flexi workers, people would want apprentices, people would want freelancers and gig workers, and very little permanent. You have to recalibrate your plans around those lines. And I think now is the time for everybody. I know you guys are young, you're just looking to start your careers, but now is the time for you to understand and differentiate organization based on resilience. I can tell you at this point of time, there are various industries who on paper should make use of the opportunity COVID has posed in front of them, but each one of them will react very differently. It's probably a good idea to analyze sectors based on resilience. Also start understanding the importance of leading a very frugal life, because frugality is very important. Even if you're students, you'll understand how much it will pay off. From a recruiter perspective, today's recruiters at the moment have much less jobs at hand where they need people than supply. So I think recruiters have a challenge in any case where they have plenty more applicants than the jobs available. If one has to outshine others, I think, like I said, your eagerness to learn, how fungible your profile is, how flexible you are what recruiters will analyze your candidature as against someone else's. And hence, just stay focused on those. Don't look at opportunities of utilizing your time right now. You may not maximize your financial gains through this phase, but you might have tremendous upside in terms of learning if you somehow get yourself involved in organizations who are trying to solve this wicked problem. The learning could be tremendous and can lifelong pay off.
Right. With respect to the FMCG question, Ritu, anything specific that you can share there in terms of what they are doing?
Yes, I think all of us are understanding, like, even if you're sitting at home, we are ordering the stuff that we need through e-grocers, right? We need a toothpaste, we need our toothbrushes, we do run out of them. They don't last lifelong. I mean, we need basic food. We need our staples. A lot of processed foods. And if you guys look at the data, some of these goods are flying off the shelves. And there is, of course, there is a supply chain problem in some of these goods currently, because there is no free movement possible across borders. Mobility is still an issue. Production has not resumed to the tune. So, but all of those, I'm sure organizations will gradually solve. So I do see an opportunity in FMCG. But we'll have to wait and see what kind of roles and at what levels they will be willing to hire. But definitely in certain segment of FMCG, business will go on because it's essential. These are basics for survival of all of us. So I do see an opportunity existing, but what kind of roles is something that we will have to wait and watch.
Right. Anshuman, if I can come to you, a couple of questions on the Q&A window, specifically with respect to management graduates. They're saying, I am studying and I am doing my MBA now. What prospects do I have? Some are asking questions about, I will graduate in 2021 or 2022. Will it be advisable to do an MBA at this stage? What would your advice be to them? How valuable will an MBA be at this stage for those thinking of a higher education? Will that be a plus as far as recruiters are concerned?
Sure. So I think, Chandra, the way we should look at it, what does any formal degree brings to you? A formal degree brings two things to you. One, they bring a sense of credibility and say that you are an achiever. You went to an IIM, you went to an IIT, you went to Narsee Monjee, you went to this college. It brings credibility, and it also brings to you a level of skill and knowledge which you run through in that. And I think from that point of view, the credibility and those parts are not going to go away. That remains very much as it is. I think that is going to go. No, that is not going away anymore. I think what we need to look at is how the future of the organizations are going to be. And as Rituparna very rightly said, I think the organizations are going to change in a big way, which means that there is going to be a very larger shift of what we call as the Uberization of jobs is going to happen, which means that your career is no more the responsibility of your organization. Your career is now your own responsibility from that point of view. And we may very well see that people may be doing 2 jobs or 3 jobs at the same point in time, which means that the whole gig economy, which we have been talking about, when we said that a 2009-10 disruption happened, the Lehman disruption happened, I think after that came the whole smartphone, and smartphone gave a whole asset-light Uberized model of cabs and various other things. And we essentially shifted from a very physical world to a digital world of various sectors. I think very similar is going to happen here also. I think after this disruption, you are going to find that the career is becoming Uberized, which means that you may be doing 2 jobs or 3 jobs and you are yourself owning your own career. And in that scenario, your own development is your own agenda. And I think the whole, so with that perspective, and the other thing what we may have to look for is the kind of jobs which are going to come moving forward, your colleges may not have kind of trained you. So if you today go back and see in 2006 and 7, some of the best marketeers which passed out from IIMs, did they really went in for a very strong digital marketing as a course overall? Did they really did this? The answer was no. But today, if you today pick up a CMO in any company and they are not aware about how the digital marketing runs, then they may not be the right candidate for a top job kind of a thing. But when we actually go back and see 2005 and 6, where we thought about it, the answer is no. So I think the same is going to happen today also. The jobs which are going to open up and how the organizations are going to be there in future, I think that's the lens we should really focus on. And we should essentially say that it is our responsibility to own the career. And that's a big shift which any graduate, any postgraduate, whether it is a commerce graduate, whether it's an engineering graduate, whether it's an MBA graduate, I think that is a takeaway they should have in terms of how they should be focusing on. For example, is the hotel industry going to go away? The answer is no. In short term, it is going to be like this, but there is going to be a lot of experiential other kind of travel which is going to open up that. So is the food industry going to go away kind of a thing, or the restaurant is going to go away? The answer is no. Is the entertainment industry going to go away? The answer is no. If you talk about the FMCG industry, I think the FMCG industry used to run on a very strong sales distribution channel network, which was their kind of a thing. Today, at this point in time, if they have to reach to consumers directly because the traditional model is not going to be there, they will have to figure out a way in terms of how they can reach out to consumers directly from that point of view, which means that it is going to open up a new set of jobs which are going to come out. So I think that's the place where I believe that the ray of hope for us is, and that's the place where the shift in the economy is going to be. And I think it's a very interesting time, because the way I see it is this new generation which is coming out in this new decade, they will be seeing this brutal assault which is happening. They will get ready for it. And in 5 years, they will be far more ahead than people who passed out in the last decade, because they will not be acquiring those skills, because they have gone deep in those older skills. And these are the guys who will acquire the new skills, and you will find them to be far more competitive and far more bleeding edge from that point of view. And so I definitely believe in short run it is a hit, but in medium to longer run it's going to be a lot of ray of hope for these days.
Right. Archit, I just want to come to you. There was a question on the Q&A window on, onboarding by recruiters. Some people I spoke to say that, they are being onboarded virtually. They are honoring job offers virtually, and they are kind of inducting them into the company. Are you seeing this trend among your batchmates? Have companies started doing this remotely? And how are students reacting to it? Because you pass out of an institution, you expect to kind of join a new campus, meet colleagues in person, but our graduates are kind of facing a very different scenario where everything is happening remotely. So what trend are you seeing on this front? Are they completely deferring it, or have they started doing it virtually?
No, they're not all of them have deferred it. I mean, deferral is inevitable. I mean, there's nothing to hide in that. But a lot of companies and the ones, not a lot of sectors, especially a lot of high pressure sectors like investment banking also started, virtual onboarding. Some of my friends are actually clocking in the typical IB hours even virtually. You talk about product management, people have started working virtually. You talk about even marketing for that matter. People have started working virtually. So yes, it is. If you say there is an expectation mismatch, we did not expect to join this way. But then it has been said over and over again. The entire concept of workplace is evolving, and even onboarding has been a part of it. So a lot of my batchmates have already started working. A lot of firms are actually playing the waiting game as well. They have deferred it till some time because no one knows when the lockdown is going to get lifted, or when other restrictions are going to go away, when is travel going to resume. So we don't know the end of this crisis as of now. So deferral seems an intelligent option because since it's still May, usually a lot of people join sometime in June, late May, July. That's the normal schedule anyway. So I won't say it's there's a lot of panic right now. A lot of firms have deferred till sometimes later this year as well, especially the international ones. But other than that, a lot of firms have started who wanted graduates to come on board as fast as possible. They've figured out a way, and it's going well for a lot of my batchmates. So I don't see any problem as such, other than some basic problems related to data sharing, etc., security issues which might arise. But there are turnarounds for that, and there are solutions which firms are adopting, and even the graduates are coping up well. So I see a lot of good things happening in that way.
Right. Utkarsh, a question directed your way. This came up in the Q&A window. What can placement cells in colleges do to help students during these times? Because I read reports about how all the IITs in the country have gotten together to help students whose job offers have been cancelled. IIT Delhi is also doing a lot in helping students meet counselors, taking steps to ensure that students are able to maintain their mental health in these tough times. So
Right.
can you tell us what else training and placement cells can do? Because in most cases, what happens is once you get a job offer, you cannot sit for an interview with another firm. Should we relax some of these rules now? Because you don't know which company will ultimately honor the job offer in these circumstances.
True. So that actually has been relaxed. A lot of the students who have lost their offers can actually sit for placements again. And we are trying to come up with different strategies depending on the number of students who lose their offers. So I'd say in terms of what placement cells can do, there are two things that we need to look at. The first is how do we prevent more offers being lost? And the other is for students who have lost their offers, how do we help them get jobs again? So when you said that IITs have come together to actually form these committees where uh, they're working together to ensure that jobs are not being lost. The idea behind that is to try to pressurize firms from not revoking their offers. And this happens by letting them know that if you revoke offers across IITs, then there's a good chance that you might not be able to recruit from IITs for the next few years. This has been done for several years before as well, and I think this is also done in IIMs. The next step is to actually try to ensure that students who have lost their job offers are can actually sit for companies that might be interested in recruiting them. So what placement cells have done is try to contact the regular recruiters, try to find out if any of them are interested in actually hiring these students. And if so, then that's great. Otherwise, depending on the number of students who actually end up losing their job offers, we might actually have another placement drive. So in fact, that's what the director of IIT Delhi actually told us. So in case a lot of students actually lose the jobs they currently have, we'll have another placement drive properly in July or so.
Okay, that's heartening to hear. So colleges are already doing their best to kind of help students, also relax some of the existing rules and possibly have another placement drive when
Right.
this crisis is at its tail end and companies are more confident about coming back.
Yeah.
Ritu, a question your way. This is coming from KRC. He runs a digital education company called 361 Degree Minds. He says today the pandemic and lockdown is forcing a lot of digital learning initiatives. Um, um, so they're getting skilling certificates from hundreds of online learning providers. What will make the job providing HR folks to recognize online degrees, diplomas, and skill certificates? Till now they have been arguing that they will not recognize distance or online learning certificates and degrees. Will that change now?
I think what we expected in India from online learning to happen by 2030, thanks to COVID, that has been preponed to 2020. I think all those beliefs and traditional and archaic mindsets around online education, its validity, its credibility, whether it's in the minds of employers, whether it's in the minds of public policy makers, have undergone sea change. Now people are realizing that how much can be enabled. And I think, as an organization, we've been advocating it for the last decade that how India needs to push ahead its agenda of online learning, mobile-based learning. Like, for example, the Ivy League colleges are free to offer MOOCs courses in India, but Indian universities can't. It's kind of sad. But I guess I am actually very optimistic around online education thanks to COVID, where I do believe that both employers, public policy makers, and even students who earlier did have a mindset of giving it, it's essentially, agar kuch aur nahi hai, to let me just do this. I think that seriousness among students to use this gainfully for learning was also not there. And I guess most importantly, I feel in today's time, employers are going to utilize these attempts by students who enroll into different online classes and courses as a signal to understand their learnability quotient, that how curious these people are, how they manage to keep themselves occupied to that time. And that has immense signaling values in the minds of employers today, that you just did not waste your time, the 2 months that you got or the 3 months that you're going to get just sitting at home and doing nothing. So I guess the people's approach towards many things will undergo change and has undergone change. And I feel that some of the challenges that online education companies and digital learning platforms faced before are going to do away. So starting from my daughter, she is doing all her courses and classes quite seamlessly online. I have seen 3-year-old kid doing it online. So you can't escape it. This is the new normal. And hence, too bad if somebody, or rather I shouldn't say that, too bad. This is the way life is going to be, and hence you might as well accept it rather than resist it. So I'm very optimistic. And I didn't know that we needed something like Corona to bring in this shift in people's thinking. But now that it has happened, it's great, because India cannot create employable skills at the scale that we need by putting people in classrooms. It's absolutely impossible to do that. We have to leverage technology. And that's the only way that you could possibly skill a large number of kids and students across the length and breadth, not just restricted to the cities and towns, across rural India in a big way. And hence, I am very excited about the outcomes COVID poses for online education. So I feel past is past, and the future is going to be very different.
So, right. Chandra, I would definitely like to add on that.
Yeah. Anshuman, if I can just add a couple of questions from the Q&A window your way, and then you can add to what Ritu said. One question directed at you: are we going to see consolidation in some job functions like technology and HR? And secondly, are we going to see more opportunities with respect to the gig economy? Are companies going to hire more freelancers, more contractors, rather than give people permanent jobs? Is that going to be another way the job function is going to change?
Sure. So I'll take these two a minute later. So on the online education, I think, what we need to look at is, if we were shopping, let's say online in 2006 and 7, we were shopping through some obscure site, and what was the experience? It was really not something we will ever trust about it. But then came a whole era of 2010 when the whole smartphone came, the infrastructure came, the internet economy came, and today what is the experience? It's wow. So I think when something becomes mainstream, the technology and infrastructure will automatically keep up pace with. So if we go back and see what was online education in 2015-16, I think the technology and infrastructure and the need all were not there kind of. Today, when there is a need, I would definitely see that in the next 1 year, or not even 1 year, in the next 6 months, you will see massive amount of technology and infrastructure coming out. And then you will see the whole online teaching experience by itself will go 10x in the next 6 months. And at that moment, bringing authenticity to online education will be far more easier. I think we have an infrastructure issue, we have a technology issue which was not solved. Today need is there. I'm 100% sure that in 6 months it is going to get solved. So online education is going to become mainstream. The way our e-commerce and cab hailing and so many things have become mainstream today, and they're a part of it, and the technology and infrastructure has taken pace with what the need is. I think same is going to be the case here. Just that COVID has accelerated it. Now, coming back to will the consolidation happen? Yes, with every disruption, jobs will get consolidated. In fact, few jobs will get obsolete and few new jobs will come out to be. And I think that's going to, and some of them may happen sudden and some of them may happen gradual. And this is how I think every disruption brings about it. Gig economy, in fact, I told you previously also, I think this is the time when the gig economy will really see a new light of the day, because I think today when we have got about 1,500 folks today, and I can tell you at least the output productivity of my team is 1.5x today in terms of what they were working earlier. So today, if you really ask me tomorrow, if even the COVID goes away, do most of us want to still go back to offices and work? I think we will have a very serious rethink. I'm quite sure that 50% people will not go back to office and work. They may actually want to work in this way and be far more productive. I think there was some taboos attached to it, whether my guy needs to be in the office and serious discussions and meetings can only happen when you are face to face. I think all of that has gone away. So clearly, I think with the gig economy happening today, somebody sitting in South America can work for a company in Japan and the manager could be sitting very well in Italy, and that is going to happen. And today, same thing is going to happen in online education. A great professor sitting in IIT Bombay can very well teach a course in IIT Chennai, and a great professor in IIT Chennai can teach someone in RC Surathkal, and that is going to happen, which was happening earlier. So I think we had a lot of assets which were logged because of the whole physical mobility kind of a thing. I think with this whole digital mobility, you will see a huge amount of assets which are going to get logged. And I think we are going to become a far more faster and efficient world. That is how I see it.
Right. Anshuman, a follow-up question for you. This is something that I addressed in the beginning of the webinar as well. IITs, IIMs have an edge, but what about smaller colleges in the country, tier 2, tier 3? Just a follow-up to that. Is there a possibility that, this whole thrust towards online learning, online certification will somewhat level the playing field? Because now we are seeing such different models. You have a Lambda school in the US. Yeah. You have startups like Pesto Tech in India, which pick software engineers. They train them on particular skills for 2-3 months. And, you only have to pay the course fee back when you land a job with a certain CTC. A percentage of the CTC will be the fees for the course. So we are seeing, this whole kind of reimagined learning on the go. So do you think this will help in, leveling the playing field for smaller colleges from smaller cities across the country?
Certainly, in fact, this will be a big leveler. See, unfortunately, we have been a very class-driven society. The good thing has been we all the various classes, so-called the IITs and IIMs and all that have coexisted and have worked very well. So I think this whole digital shift is going to bring that meltdown of the classes more clearly. Today, I think it is very much merit and skill driven versus brand driven. I think just that from an IIT and IIM helps you to get your maybe a first better job there, but it opens up a little bit more wider opportunities. But at the end of it, we all know that when you have to really survive and when you are 15 years, 20 years down the career, I think your pedigree only plays a certain role. I think it is your actual skill and work that plays a far more bigger role. What is going to happen is, because this whole digital shift is going to bring access to all the great professors and teachers and educations for various people which were not like earlier able to access it. I think it is going to become far more democratic, and the whole walls of classes are going to definitely go down. I don't see that they will totally go away. It will still remain because it is far more deep-rooted in us. But yeah, there is going to be certainly a far more democratic ecosystem which you will see, which will emerge out very soon.
Right. Archit, I want to come to you. There were a lot of questions with respect to MBAs. I know you've taken some of them already, but people are asking about the value of internships at such a time, are companies still providing internships to start with? Because a lot of these convert to pre-placement offers for, MBAs. So is that still happening? And what is the value of a virtual internship or a remote internship? Secondly, should people who have management degrees also look at taking opportunities and starting up? For example, India now is one of the leading producers of PPE kits. Mask making has become another business opportunity. So are there opportunities for that, for startups, for graduates?
So your first question about internships. So first thing we need to understand, internships are also part of the academic curriculum. So no, it's not directly an employer and a student relationship. It's a part of the academic curriculum at every institute, be it IT or IIMs. So internships, yes, because the curriculum is designed in a particular way, and we have to adhere to certain timelines. So in that perspective, there was no other way but to get it done virtually. And I mean, anyway, they're working on live projects. The entire idea of internship is to apply whatever you have learned, or perhaps develop something in a real world kind of scenario. Now right now, even though they might face certain kind of hardships because of the virtual mode, but there's no other way to get things started. And when the entire world is working that way, so are the interns. Yes, the kind of timeline, 2-month internship is kind of less, so they were facing a lot of problems initially. But a lot of my juniors I've talked to, they are pretty much are very smooth, have onboarded very smoothly onto their work. Now 2 months with the internship, they are working as good as a normal employee would have in a general scenario. Yes, there are certain sectors where the core job function involve a lot of physical involvement, let's say having a sales stint or talking directly to the client. Now that might have taken a hit. That has definitely taken a hit, to be honest. But otherwise, a lot of most of my juniors are kind of adapted well. And internships, no, a lot of, as you correctly pointed out, they actually tend to get a pre-placement offer out of these internships. Now it's very difficult to speculate. The normal wisdom would say, yes, given the job market, proportion of PPO might go down a bit. I mean, that is expected. That might not come as a surprise. But you have to also understand that firms will be doing it for everyone. It's not an unequal footing for anyone. Nobody is at an advantage or a disadvantage. Everybody is being evaluated in the same parameters through virtual internship. So I think there is nothing to be extra worried, what is going to happen differently, because everybody is going to be evaluated that. At the end of the day, the hiring decision depends on the firm and the firm's requirement. Even though, right now the number of pre-placement offers might not be as high as last year, I'm pretty sure by the time final placements arrive, because most of these recruiters who hire interns are the one who come for final placements as well. So, there's going to be a balance, as Anshuman also pointed out, there's a difference between short-term, medium-term and long-term goals. So short-term might be compensated sometime in a medium-term goal later on the final placements. So that's it about the internships. Second, about starting up, to be really honest, management students fresh out of these schools, you don't see a lot of people starting up in general. I mean, that's largely because of the kind of loans people have when people go to B schools. So I don't think that is going to change a lot. Every year it has been, to be honest, take the biggest of biggest IIMs or any management school, the fresh graduate starting up is single digits most of the time. So, that has been the case for quite some time. So I don't see anything from a fresh grad perspective changing that a lot. Secondly, a lot of other management, experienced management students, I think they'll find new opportunities to open up. Yeah, they might have to, rethink the kind of companies they are building, because right now you look up to companies which are built to last. You not look up to companies which are, 1 year wonder, or, kind of a phenomenon in itself. People will have to rethink the way they look at companies as well. So you would see experienced management students starting up in the same way they have, but with a lot more caution, with a lot more longevity in their minds. And as far as PP kits, etc., you gave examples of certain sectors which have emerged. A couple of my batchmates have already been working in manufacturing of PP kits, and some social work. One of them was actually discussing about how 3D printing can be used to uh, manufacture PP kits. So people are looking at these options. I think right now, because of certain logistical constraints, it has not been that mainstream. But you would see a lot of these ideas coming up very soon. Once things ease out a little and people have evaluated the opportunities in the time frame they have been given.
Right. Thank you for that, Archit. It's good to know that your batchmates are already exploring some of these avenues. So that will certainly help all of us in the long run. But Utkarsh, coming to you, one question that came up in the Q&A is what happens to students who have completed undergrad and they're looking at doing MS abroad now with all the norms around immigration, countries closing borders. What's going to happen to those plans? And I have a follow-up question to this. Will higher institutes based in India, management institutes based in India, research institutes based in India see more demand now because there are more restrictions as far as immigration is concerned? From that perspective, will foreign universities become somewhat less attractive for undergraduates?
Right. So my previous answer was actually based around foreign universities. What happens is that students either already have admits or they've already applied and are waiting for their admits. And in a lot of scenarios, especially in the universities that we have in the US, you would either see a delay in admissions or you'd see a semester or two shifting online completely. So they are flexible in that sense, but another major problem is whether or not they'll get visas even 6 months from now. So students are definitely evaluating what they're supposed to do. A sort of an issue for them is whether or not they can actually make that decision now, since a lot of students who actually apply for master's programs do not sit for placements. So they don't really have any other backup option. And they might actually just have to accept a deferred admission to foreign institutions. However, I think so a lot of IITians actually go for an MBA in India, particularly to the IIMs. I think that is still it's a very sensible option apart from being a lucrative option, because there would not be any immigration issues and you'd expect the economy to bounce back within 2 years. So that would particularly be a very good option. So students who have gone in that direction, students who actually prepared for the CAT and gave interviews for IIMs are actually very well off in the situation, I'd say.
Right. Thank you for that, Utkarsh. So I think the students who didn't anticipate, and even though who prepared like for a CAT or who've gone to an IM, perhaps they have 2 more years of breathing time, and by then we'll see the worst of this getting over.
Right.
But Ritu, a couple of questions coming your way. What can HR professionals do to motivate employees in the current environment? That's one question that came up on the chat window. What can they do apart from sending emails and messages? What can they actually do to help employees? And are we going to see a significant shift in the way salaries are structured in a post-COVID world with more trust given on variable and performance and all that? Will we see these kind of shifts happen?
Yes, I think I personally feel that the responsibility of staying engaged and looking after employees during the COVID phase is not just limited to HR. I think every business functions, every team leaders. I mean, I feel that I personally am of that category of people who believes that looking after your employees is not a job that you can delegate to your HR team. I think this is a responsibility. It's a business responsibility or a business function responsibility. But yeah, I think I understand the intent behind the question, and hence I would say I think COVID has thrown open an interesting challenge for the world. Like, for example, companies who had 0% of people working from home or had zero infrastructure or plans of people working. The way their business was, it had to be delivered from their premises. A lot of people are outbound in nature. And then suddenly COVID happens, and with very little notice, organization had to make decisions and garner resources to move people to a work from home environment. And it also is important to understand that some people are actually working from home and some cannot. This belief, look, 88% of India, if you were to look at the India's workforce, are engaged, whether it's in formally or informally, in roles which are outbound in nature, which means they cannot be done sitting at home. And I see that is a reality which will not overnight change, by the way. So yes, you have certain number of people who are working from home, but they actually don't have work. Even if you look at some way giving them some work, I think there are limitations. What an organization should be doing, and I see many organizations doing, is the daily calibration that happens with employees, the conversations that are happening, how often you're touching base, the tonality of the conversation, the sensitivity. I think what is required today is a greater level of communication and engagement. Yes, you can't do it physically, but you have to do it through digital platforms, but you'll have to channelize them in many ways. And it's not just about saying, hey, how are you? What's going on? I think we have to figure out ways and means by which we can get them all involved together. So we can organize hackathons. There could be different challenges, like suddenly a manufacturing unit which was making something else, fashion items, today have to now figure out how they can survive. Like I was just talking to a founder of a fashion brand yesterday itself. Overnight, their business came down from whatever to zero. And then how they climbed back into actually clocking from March to April, from zero revenue, they could take it up to 3 crores. And how? Because how organization and the entire employee base of the company came together and ideated in trying to solve for problems. If employees are bound by the purpose and they understand the purpose of existence of the organization, and if there is constant reiteration of it, there will be you would not have to worry about your employees, because your employees are already involved and they would be helping each other, they would be helping the organization. So I think the aim and objective of organization should be, rather than worrying about how we can look after the employees, which of course should be the starting point, very soon we should be able to graduate where employees are worrying about the organization and how they're going to help the organization grow and survive. If we are able to make
Ritu, sorry, we're running out of time. Just the second part of the question, if you can address, and I'll take a couple of questions with Anshuman with respect to how the salary structure will change now.
Yes, sure. So I think, like I was earlier mentioning, that organization structures will be changing from cylinders to pyramids to Eiffel towers, and similarly compensation structures. I think you will see compensation structures where earlier there would be 80 to 90% of your compensation structure used to be fixed. I mean, we are all mentally prepared, we know. And baki chalo variable hai, jane do, or anything else. That's going to be reversing very soon is my hunch. I think we will all have to work with very little fixed components and much larger variable, by the way, exponentially larger variable. Because organizations would be willing to pay us more based on outcomes, based on performance.
Okay.
And we should be ready for it, and we should be mentally prepared.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Ritu. Anshuman, final question to you. We're getting a lot of questions from people on, tips and tricks on how their resume should look like, what should they do in order to attract recruiters. Any 2 or 3 tips that you can share with people?
Sure. I think, clearly at any point in time, whether it is COVID, no COVID, I think the rules of how your resume should look like should remain the same. I don't see it really focuses on. And since we are talking about a lot of people which are essentially here, the fresher community, graduate or postgraduate, I think you can focus a lot in terms of the various projects which you have done. And if there are any projects where you have, because the way I see it in short run, you may find the digital economy being a little bit more on the upswing kind of a thing. So from a short-term point of view, if you have done any projects where you have essentially digital experience, you should try highlighting that kind of a thing. I think you should also focus and bring about a good amount of your hobbies, which you should have also highlighted in the resume, because many a times you never know what kind of new jobs are going to open up kind of a thing. So, and I think for that also, companies will figure out new ways of assessing also. It is not that a new job comes in and we will still use the same old way of assessing them. So I think there will be new ways of assessing also, which is going to come out kind of a thing. And in that scenario, I think you should just ensure that you give a fairly good balance of what projects you have done, what hobbies you have, what kind of skills you have gone through. I think you need to have a right balance of all, because when new economy is opening up, new jobs are opening up, people will, I think, try to hire a lot on your potential. And even when freshers are getting hired, you are hired on potential than anything very proven. So you can only do so much to highlight your projects or those kind of a thing. So, and you should just narrate what you have done and what you as a person are. And I think that's how I think the best resumes should be descriptive, should not exceed more than 2 pages. I'm not a big fan of one who pushes for a 1-page resume, even for a fresher also, and even for a CEO also. We always say that 2 resumes is what you should do it. We should, don't follow a very fixed template per se, because you may be boxing about what you know. I think go with the flow. That's what it is.
Right, right. On that note, we are completely out of time, but thank you very much, all of you, for joining us on this webinar. Our panelists, Archit, Utkarsh, Anshuman, as well as Rituparna, and of course, all the people who logged in on a Saturday afternoon. The full recording of this webinar will be available on ET Now's YouTube page. So in case you logged in late or missed out some of the responses, you can refer to it. We try to cover as much ground as possible. And we will keep focusing on this topic in the weeks, in the coming weeks as well. So thank you very, very much, all of you, for weighing in with your insights and your questions.
Thank you.